world waters. The South China Sea conflict is incredibly unstable. Litzner of the Asia Times reports this June that the South China Sea is being increasingly dominated militarily by China at both an eastern and western end. Beijing is seeking to transform the South China Sea into a Chinese-controlled waterway and a strategic choke point for other countries. America's recent callous treatment of allies has caused longtime partners to doubt our resolve. Shannon Sherwin at the Air Force writes in 2017, what credibility does the U.S. have in making the statement or in backing the international force when it is not itself a signatory to the convention upon which the ruling is based? The U.S.'s current maritime security policy states that the U.S. must ensure continued freedom of the seas, deter conflict and coercion, and promote adherence to international law and standards. Yet the U.S. pays lip service to these statements as an outsider to the law of the sea. This lack of faith in American commitment breeds a willingness to align with China. Westcott of CNN reports this year that uncertainty about America's commitment to the region has prompted local leaders to strengthen ties with China as U.S. influence in the region fades. A great example is the Philippines. Hunt of CNN reports last May that recently the Philippines has pivoted towards Beijing and away from the U.S., which despite a mutual defense treaty, Duterte regards as an ally. U.S. accession to the law of the sea is needed to reassure American allies, thereby reinforcing a stable balance of power in two ways. The first is bolstering the rule of law. Done in 12 of the Center for New American Security Rights, China seeks to limit the right of naval powers to ensure that these frictions do not escalate into conflict. Chinese law challenges the existing international maritime order by attempting to reverse the existing balance of coastal states and international rights to operate freely in EEZs. UNCLOS accession solves this issue, as January 16 in the Washington Post writes that when the U.S. urges China to respect a rules-based international system, the admonishment often comes across here as insincere. Although the U.S. government says it follows UNCLOS' customary international law, its failure to submit itself formally to its provisions rankles many nations. Our failure to ratify UNCLOS pushes away our allies by demonstrating a lack of commitment to regional institutions, undermining their confidence in us. The second is military alliances. Freedom of navigation operations, or FONOPs, are the U.S. Navy's practice of leaving in and out of China's exclusive economic zone in order to display our dissatisfaction with their illegal and expansionist policies. Andrew Erickson, professor at the U.S. Naval War College, explained in 2015, because UNCLOS is almost universally accepted, U.S. action to receive support from the 160 nations party to the convention, allowing commanders to more aggressively assert navigational rights within the approved framework of UNCLOS. James Pascoe furthers for foreign policy in 2012, Beijing has repeatedly challenged the legal right of the U.S. to maintain an offshore naval presence in the region's inner seas. The law of the sea protects freedom of navigation of the United States and other countries with the imprimatur of international law. The treaty can thus help prevent China from standing between the U.S. and its treaty allies such as Japan, South Korea, and Australia, as well as its new strategic partners such as India and Vietnam. A more credible U.S. military shows our allies that we are more willing to defend them. Increasing our demonstrations decreases the likelihood of conflict. As Johnson of the Journal of International Interactions writes, a state that is an alliance that requires a high level of military coordination is 23% less likely to be the target of a militarized dispute than a state that has an alliance that requires a low level of military coordination. For these two reasons, pardon of the diplomat writes that joining UNCLOS would communicate that for the U.S., resolution of maritime disputes in the South China Sea is not a question of being for or against any particular country or its claims, but rather of being on the side of international law, institutions, and norms. Pham of the diplomat reports this May that on its current course, as Beijing accrues naval dominance in the South China Sea, the rules meant to regulate its behavior are likely to matter less and less, underscoring the geopolitical truism that might is right. There would be nothing stopping China from teaching sailors a lesson, like how it taught Vietnam painful lessons during the 1979 Third Indochina War. Stout of Time magazine quantified in 2014 that teaching the Vietnamese a lesson turned out to be a costly affair. Analysts have estimated that despite the conflict lasting just 6 weeks, as many as 50,000 soldiers died during the confrontation. For these reasons, we affirm.
Convention on Law of the Sea without reservations. Our first contention is protecting the environment. James Scott of Penn State Law explained in 2013 that UNCLOS provides that nations have exclusive rights to resources 200 nautical miles from the coast. With one of the largest coastlines in the world, the United States is estimated to have 96 billion barrels of oil and 104 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. The Council on Foreign Relations notes in 2012 that U.S. oil and gas companies are not investing in these resources as they need a maximum level of legal certainty before making investments. signing UNCLOS does just that. It creates a huge problem. Natural Resources Defense Council argues in 2016 could release as much as 15.8 billion tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. But even worse, it stifles the long-term solution. Gil Jenkins, writer at Forbes reports last year that currently renewables are economically competitive with fossil fuels and are projected to reach $1 trillion in investments between 2018 and 2030. Unfortunately, signing UNCLOS reverses this progress. The Leo desk of Investopedia concludes in 2018, when there's an excess supply of oil, prices fall sharply because demand is inelastic. This trades off with renewable investment because it becomes less competitive. This happened in 2014 empirically. Holly Elliott's CNBC report explains that when the price of crude oil fell 46%, green energy firms saw a drastic lowering of investment by about 30%. Green technology is crucial for reducing carbon emissions. Little MIT quantifies in 2016. 1% increase in non-fossil fuel electricity reduces CO2 emissions by 0.75%. The impact of carbon emissions is immense. Reuters reports in 2013. The global impact of a warming Arctic is an economic time bomb. A global impact of $60 trillion, almost the value of our entire economy. Even worse, the National Research Council explains in 2011, for each degree of Celsius, subsequent 5 to 15% reduction in crop yields. This compromises the livelihoods of 2.5 billion people dependent on agriculture. Our second contention is protecting the Navy. Currently, the United States is in a unique position of power where we offer de facto support of the law of the sea without fully committing to the parts of treaty that constrain our action. Unfortunately, David Renier of the Center for National Policy Analysis explains Article 88 and 301's requirement to refrain from any threat or use of force against any integrity of any state would unduly constrain U.S. defense operations writ large, such as naval exercises and freedom of navigation operations. Renier contextualizes the scope of this impact, writing that the United States circumstances are very, very different from any other 149 parties to the treaty, as we're the only nation with extended, long-range military obligations that other nations simply do not have. When we affirm to the treaty without reservations, Lang Nguyen of the Asian Journal of Maritime Law reports in 2016, we give our consent to the jurisdiction of compulsory dispute settlement bodies. Edwin Meese of the Heritage Foundation adds in 2007 that the voting bloc process is overwhelmingly driven by anti-American agenda seen in UN General Assemblies. This is terrible for U.S. flexible response, since regardless of the case's merits, the United States will be forced to defend itself against each and every lawsuit, and judgment rendered will be final and enforceable in U.S. territory. Regardless of winning the court case, conflict is born out of uncertainty of the document. Bateman of the Current Journal and Defense Analysis explains in 2009 that the complexity of UNCLOS, built-in ambiguities, and gray areas in almost every section make it extremely difficult for the United States to uphold the navigational rights of any region. It is impossible to enforce something that is unenforceable. For these reasons, UNCLOS will bar the United States from having an effective naval presence. Mackenzie Evelyn of the American Enterprise Institute in 2015 reports that U.S. Navy provides shipping lanes for commerce and cargo to move unmolested from the places of origin, safeguarding $4.6 trillion of waterborne commerce, supporting 23 million jobs. Additionally, Torkelson of the Air and Space Journal indicates in 2016 that naval flexibility allows the United States to deter adversaries and reassure our allies, but binding international agreements will impose restrictions on U.S. operations and impede our function. To prevent all of this, we need Navy.
Yeah, 60 trillion. Can I see a 60 trillion? Yeah, 60 trillion. And then Elliot about the decreasing price, decreasing big tech.
I would say, like, if you drop like an investment in a certain sector of green energy that much, it could collapse the entire market.
So how much is the cost of oil going to be?
But like, obviously, I'm not an economist, right? I can't predict exactly how much it's going to cost to collapse.
So that's kind of
But, like,
problematic on. This is
well,
kind of
I'll give you the uniqueness, right? Like, green energy is really expensive. If you decrease investment and research into better green energy, that's going to worsen the problem.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you.
Wait.
We've been on this for a while. I'm going to ask you.
But this is why
You're
it's
just saying
problematic,
a lot,
but it's
I'm
not.
asking you.
The reason why we're asking for a number is because it has to be more profitable for
Sure.
companies to invest in oil than green tech.
Understand.
So if you don't give me a number,
Understand.
then
It's
how
very
will
linear.
the
The more oil there is, the less common it is, which means the prices go down, which means green energy like comparatively looks less like advantageous. I'm gonna ask you a question.
Sure.
All right. Your second point is about phone ops, and you say joining is going to help our phone ops. Right?
Except they're more preventable, yeah.
How is that?
Because this is the problem. Okay.
So let's talk about this credibility. Right?
Okay.
So is your first link also about U.S. general credibility?
Yeah, I mean they're all about like both the
Okay.
general idea in the case about
Cool.
credibility.
So it's just about
us.
credibility.
I mean that's like the general idea of our case.
So can we dive into the specific part about phone ops? How does it help our phone ops?
Okay, so it's not that necessarily our phone ops, like the way we conduct them changes, it's that we have the support of our allies. Because this is the problem that we present right
So,
now.
like, how much
Hold on, wait,
support?
can I answer
Yeah.
that? So we say the problem is that right now, countries view our actions, for example, phone ops, that we're only acting in our own best interest. We say that when we accede, that shows them that we're acting on the side of international institutions and norms.
I understand.
That's the part in that.
No, I understand your
Okay,
point.
so what's your
You don't have to
question?
say it again. I'm just saying this credibility that increases, or
Yes.
however much support from our allies.
Yes.
How much support? Like one point of support, 2 points of support.
Look,
Like
you
where are we
can't,
going?
you can't
with this?
give a number of how much
Okay.
support you have. But what we can tell you is use historical precedents. And what we tell you is that right now, countries like the Philippines used to be staunchly on our side, are flipping
Let's do a
over to
little bit
China.
of weighing
We
right
say
now.
that when we
Let's-
affirm, you bring them back to our side.
Let's do a little bit of weighing right now, right?
All right.
You say you can't quantify it for me. It's very untangible.
No.
What's tangible is our
This
military.
is our.
What's tangible is our military presence in the region, assuring our allies, rather than untangible, uncountable, unquantifiable support of our legislation.
It's because your argument about numbers, ours isn't. Well, first, we do give you numbers. We say at the bottom of our case that military coalitions decrease the jet score by 23%.
Yeah.
We also say that invasion of
I understand
Vietnam
you
would
have
be 50,000 deaths. But this is what we say. is
I
that-
understand we all have impacts. I'm saying how strong is your link?
Yes, I
I'm
say
not answering that
our
question.
link is very clear. We say the countries are flipping right now. We give you specific examples. We say the Philippines. We say Malaysia. We say Indonesia. We say you affirm to bring them back on.
Here's the comparison. Until you can tell me how many legitimacy points and why that matters, I don't think your point is very quantifiable at all.
We'll take that. they say that U.S. oil and gas companies need legal certainty. Even if they get legal certainty, they don't want to go in. The Arctic is a terrible place to drill for a number of reasons. The first one is that there's too much price shenanigans. A is that short-term prices are far too low. Goldberg 17 explains that the rush of shale into the market has destroyed incentives to go into the Arctic. Shell and many other companies have pulled out of the Arctic and do not want to go in. B is that prices will never rise very high because OPEC determines where the price goes. And OPEC has taken the incentive to keep the price at $78 a barrel, according to Tucker, because it keeps them more competitive. So my opponents may read that there's an increase in prices, but even though there's an increase in short-term prices, they point that there's an increase in prices enough to justify moving from shale into the Arctic into very costly explorations. So even if the price goes up, companies still won't need their very profitable shale reserves to go to the Arctic. 2. Drilling carries huge reputational costs that doom their investors. Goldberg 17 explains that the risk of an Arctic oil spill is so terrible that most companies won't risk when they start. This happened with Shell. Boyd and 15 explains that when Shell went in, their shareholders complained so much that there was a risk of an oil spill that they lost money. Think of the BP spill. It cost billions of dollars and added new regulations that companies hate. Companies won't go in, it's not profitable. Third, there's also too much legal uncertainty. Gardner at 17 explains that while Trump was pro-drilling, Obama was not pro-drilling, and he banned it, meaning that companies are so unlikely to drill because they fear that the next administration will be Democratic and anti their investments. They will make long-term commitments. But fourth and more importantly, oil exploration is very, very long-term. Schneider explains that by the time we would drill in 10, 20, 30 years, it won't even be profitable because green tech will have already taken over. They give you the link to them themselves and they say the green tech is becoming more profitable. Here's some reasons why. A, because Gardner 15 explains that fracking will run out until 20, 30 years, the reserves will still stay. B is infrastructure. Marcy 16 explains that the Arctic has no infrastructure, no roads, no bridges, and it would take a long time to build all that stuff up. And C is that the actual submissions to the Arctic Council that give us the legal certainty to be there take a ton of time. Who can explain that this council is very lazy and very slow, and they have to make all these measurements on the undersea floor. That's why they say that any declaration made after 2012 won't be there by 2030, so they don't have an impact there at all. Now let's go to their impacts. So first on this green tech thing. They say when the price of oil goes down, it harms green tech. But their rate here is 40% drop. They never win any drop. They just say there's 90 million barrels of oil, but they don't tell you what that means in terms of renewable energy. They have no link here to decreasing renewables. Then they say that there's $60 trillion. That's based on current projections about current emissions. And $60 trillion means we're kind of already screwed right now. A vote for the negative is a vote to harm the world. But here's why vote for the affirmative actually reverses this trend, because we allow renewables to keep going. What Leary explains is that renewables are price effective, but only as long as the supply is there. China, the largest supplier of the world, is going to run out in 20 years, and they explain this will shoot the price of renewables so much that they won't be able to be adopted. However, according to Leary further, that the U.S. holds 13 billion tons of REMs off our coast, and you give companies the legal certainty to go in. That's really important, and it's a much better link to allow renewables because it means that the price goes down in the long term. So even if there is some increase in renewable energy, we say that rather solve in the long term. And Lauber explains that green tech investment called climate change, a $1 investment in green tech reduces climate change by $11. Now let's go to Navy. The first overall overarching response is that this just does not make any sense. Look, right-wing commentators don't like the U.S. giving up sovereignty, but the actual military officials have studied UNCLOS incredibly closely. In fact, more in congressional testimony found that the Bush administration, Clinton administration, Reagan administration studied every single ambiguity in UNCLOS and found that there was almost no provision that would harm us. That is why every single institution, military institution, trusts us. Listen to the military, not to like Rush Limbaugh. Then, go to this idea of tribunals. This is not true. Article 298 allows our military to opt out of tribunals. Again, it makes no sense why our military would ever have us be in these tribunals. The military likes UNCLOS and they design these provisions. Then they say that UNCLOS is ambiguous. That is true, but the military is studying this and found it's not harmful. Then they say that U.S. Navy ships are crucial for trade. They don't explain how. There's no clear link into this. Yes, U.S. Navy is good and trade is good, but they don't show how U.S. Navy decreasing phone loss affects trade. But we have a much better link into this because, according to CNBC, any conflict in the South China Sea, be it for 1 day or more, would send ships away from the South China Sea where $5 trillion of trade passes every day. And they say it'll push the price of crude up, which means that also you see more incentive to drill in the Arctic because the price of oil goes up. So we have a better link into trade and to increasing oil because of conflict in the South China Sea. That is why we are very proud to affirm.
Okay, we're going to take it over.
non-Arctic drilling. Our argument is offshore drilling. This is really important because it takes out all of its profitability responses because offshore drilling is profitable right now. Carrington of the Global Energy Council explains that it's $55 a barrel offshore. Companies can make a lot of profit. The only reason why they're not going there is because of legal uncertainty. They even say that because of the Trump administration, Obama administration, companies won't go because it's very uncertain. If you accede to UNCLOS, they now have the certainty so that they can go and drill in the first place. We don't even need to win that we increase the supply so we reduce green tech investment in the first place. As long as they're drilling, that's destroying the environment, that's increasing carbon emissions. But then they say that renewables are going to solve back for this because we can invest in rare earth minerals and drill that way. Two key issues here. First off, we have 20,000 tons of rare earth minerals in California right now. The reason why this is really important is because companies don't invest in the offshore market for rare earth minerals because China has a monopoly and can undercut us. That's why they won't do it in the first place. But secondly, they're not going to be using rare earth minerals for solar panels. Lockheed Martin is the company who wants to do it so that they can work on building weapons with it. They have no link to the green tech. We're the only ones that win the environment. But then, go to our second contention on the Navy. They say that military officials looked at all of it and said there's no way to restrict it whatsoever. This doesn't respond with the internal logic of our argument that we can get sued and the gray areas can cause military to be hampered in the future. But then they say that Article 291 allows us to opt out of tribunals. Their own Philippines example in this case proves why this isn't true because China's militarism was empirically ruled against and told them to back down in terms of ceding the UNCLOS. Clearly, we can be sued on a militaristic level. But then, on top of our impact, they say that we never explain why the Navy is going to, Navy is important for trade. It's because you ensure the stability of the trade routes so thieves and pirates and other things cannot influence our trade securely. But then they say that they're going to outweigh because conflict in the South China Sea is a really big issue. That's talking about a war in the South China Sea. That's very, very improbable. The probability of a thief or a pirate trying to intercept our trade route is a lot higher than conflict. Which brings me to their case. Their only argument is basically the South China Sea. First off, we link in better here with freedom of navigation operations because the best way to show commitment to your allies and the best way to have peace in the South China Sea is with our military backing. Glazer of the Council on Foreign Relations explains it doesn't matter how many treaties we sign if our military is within South Korea's territory and is going and conducting freedom of navigation operations. That is a clear, quantifiable, tangible signal rather than boosting our nebulous credibility. But then secondly, if we were to restrict our military operations, that emboldens China. Lam at the Asian Maritime Policy Center explains in 2016 that the reason why China is expanding the South China Sea is to get economic resources. The military deterrent is the only thing that shows China the economic cost of pursuing further expansion. That's the reason why they're going in the first place. We're the only ones that prove them that the costs outweigh the benefits. They would be emboldened and continue to take more land if we lost. If we gave them 12 miles, they would take the rest of the South China Sea. But more importantly, let's talk about their links. Their only link is credibility. That's what they conceded in Crossfire. This is very bad for them. First of all, it's incredibly nebulous. The Trump administration can do something that hurts our credibility tomorrow for all we know. This means that credibility is incredibly short term. But furthermore, credibility is much better when you have our military backing it. That's the cornerstone of our geopolitical leverage, is having our military approach. But then on top of that, they say that tensions are increasing right now and the status quo is really bad. That's not true either. Haas of the Brookings Institute explains that right now conflict is dying down specifically because of the military stalemate that's occurring. This is really good because this means China's already creating peace deals, they're already demilitarizing, it empirically proves why the military is important. But now let's go on their second link where they talk about military alliances. They say we'll add credibility to phone ops. It doesn't matter how much credibility it has if it's literally illegal in the first place. But then secondly, they say coastal states are using the gray areas to restrict our military even more. This is where you cross-play the least evidence from our case that explains the anti-American voting bloc in UNCLOS can further add restrictions to our military in the first place, which means we won't be seeing phone ops. It doesn't matter how credible they are. If we can't go in China's territorial sea, it doesn't matter at all. But then on the impact level, they talk about proxy wars. This miscalculation has a really low probability of happening in the first place. There are so many other reasons why this exists.
Is everyone ready?
Yeah.
So just to clarify something quickly, you read the Glazer card about military in South Korea, right? And how
It's not just South Korea, it's all of our allies in the South China Sea.
like which ones?
So South Korea, the Philippines, Japan,
So what are you doing with the Philippines?
back from military.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we have military bases in
They're
the
showing
Philippines,
us the
but then it closed. You know what Duterte's signal is?
Yeah, Duterte has been really unstable, right? And he's very uncertain.
But what
So
if
the best
his
way to enhance
recent
visibility
comments?
that is certain is
What if his
so
recent
that
comments been about like Xi Jinping versus Donald Trump?
it's it's been going like back and forth depending on the day.
All right, but here's where it is right now. Xi Jinping had a meeting with Duterte, and Duterte was like, I love him. He is our best option. He is our
And then he said, I want to declare war on China the very next day. It's
that was in the past.
He's been flipping constantly. I don't think you should look at him. I
Yes,
think you should look at his
this is exactly your point. That we need the U.S. in there so that our allies can deal with it.
Exactly.
Yes,
So it's a link level debate.
Yeah, great. So everything's a link level.
There you go. Okay, so let's talk about coastal
Unless I'm
states,
bidding on it.
right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about your impact, right?
Yeah.
You said that China invaded Vietnam in the 1980s and 90s, right? 79. Great. So why did China back off?
Why are you trying to back off?
Yes.
Oh, because they got crushed by the Vietnamese. Yeah.
Well, not just that, also because of like international pressure on China.
I'm not so sure about that. China was kind of a pariah back then, and they didn't really care about the fact that
And it was a completely different regime, right?
What was completely different?
So like the reason why they invaded in the first place is because they were like, we have a very strong communist regime, North Vietnam has a very strong communist regime, so we should unite the two. And then Vietnam was like, no, we'd rather be independent. The conflict existed, but it wasn't the reason you're talking about.
They're not like, we want to merge communism.
That's
no,
what China
Vietnam attacked China's ally, who was Burma, and China was like, you don't mess with our allies, you don't mess with our party, we're going to do that. Let's get the history right here.
This is the history. Like they said we wanted to absorb Vietnam into our regime. It's not that they were
Right,
China. There's so many
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
So you bring up Haas. He talks about decreasing conflict.
Yep.
Between whom?
In the South China Sea, like tensions are going down.
No.
Peace negotiations
Which
are going.
countries is there a stalemate in between that Haas and Haas?
China, the United States, and Asian members.
Just China and the U.S. What does he say about ASA?
He says they're negotiating peace deals. with
Why?
conflicts.
Why is he saying that?
Because they're like, why does he say they're
Because they're
negotiating peace
terrified of China, and they think that if they don't negotiate with China, China's going to invade them like they invaded Vietnam.
so you're
That's
saying
what
it's-
I read Haas, alright?
Yeah,
It says.
Yeah, but
I read Haas around, like,
yeah, no, Haas's evidence is basically the idea that war in the South China Sea is very unlikely because like a peaceful assistance and a reduction in military spending already like doesn't trigger impact. But on top of that, it continues to talk about all these economic reasons in politics that exist as to why this conversation and proxy war would not happen.
So Haas says that the U.S. and China have backed off, which is exactly our point. It's bad that the U.S. has backed off because it means our allies are left alone. And then he says that in the absence of the U.S., our allies are
the
being
United
pressured.
States is backed off whatsoever. He says because of the United States pressure and military, it's decreased a stalemate, right? It's deterrence. The United States never backed off.
No, we backed off by not setting up the China.
for two reasons. The first is unclarity. We give you a very specific scenario, China invades Vietnam. You don't know who the global warming affects, how much more drilling there is. You also don't know what Navy operations are restrained. The second, our probability. We say historically, we know the coalitions work. Remember that during the Cold War, no NATO country was ever invaded because there was a strong coalition. However, again, there's a low probability of drilling. I'll get into that. There's also a low probability that the military is restrained. Let's look at their case. They dropped two responses. The first is that regimes split back and forth. So even though Trump is pro-drilling, Obama was anti-drilling, there's no reason to make long-term investments because it might be banned. But then second, there's also reputational harms. Even if it's not in the Arctic, more Arctic spills means they lose money. It's not a good investment. But then on the Navy, their argument just does not make sense because what the heads of the Navy, the heads of the DoD, the head of the CIA all say is that UNCLOS is a really good thing. Their argument is that it restricts our actions. But remember that Article 298 exempts the U.S. military from going to tribunals. Their argument about China is about them taking over islands. That's not really responsive. We say the Navy does not want to go to tribunals. They won't have to. That means our operations can never be restrained. Let's go to our case. What we say is that conflict is increasing, that the chance of conflict is going up right now is China is increasing their aggression. And the U.S. is dying, the U.S. is losing credibility in the region because our allies feel like we're only acting in our own best interests. They read this piece of evidence from Haas, which says that the conflict is dying down. That is just totally false. In the past few months, the U.S. has taken over Vietnamese oil rig. We've militarized new islands. We've put missile defense on the new islands. These are all clear contextualized examples which refer over my opponent's nebulous unwarranted claim. They make a lot of responses about how we don't have credibility. It doesn't matter. We say it does matter. We say that the Philippines and other countries are flipping over to China because we are acting as a lone wolf. You need to get the countries back on our side. That's how we restore credibility. And the Johnson evidence that we've said is that when there's a strong military coalition, the chance of conflict goes down by 26%. The reason is clear, because China will not start a war that they won't win. Remember the NATO example. When we say this happens on our strength force, when China gets more power, they will attack one of these countries to further consolidate their power, and for these reasons we affirm. My first contention, the only response that he extended, that there isn't any legal certainty because the administration can change. That's literally our argument. The more legal certainty that you give these companies, the more likely they're going to drill. It's very, very linear. If you give them the legal certainty, the international community is far less likely to lash out at these drilling companies, which is why they're more likely to go offshore and go drill. It's becoming very, very profitable right now. And my Carter tells you in rebuttal, it's $55 per barrel. The more legally certain, the more investment goes up and the more production costs go down. That's only going to create more profit in the future. Then he says you outweigh our argument on clarity and on probability. Yes, his impacts are very clear, but if his links aren't clear, that still doesn't make a lot of sense. If you don't want to go through this entire South China Sea debate, here's the clearest way for you to vote for us in the round. Essentially, we tell you it's 100% probable. You do more drilling, it's more carbon emissions, it's more oil rigs, and that's more climate damage. That's why the NRC tells you the more drilling that you do, you see a 5 to 15% decrease in crop yields, affecting 2.5
2.5 billion people in agriculture. This outweighs on scope and magnitude, and it's the only impact that matters in the round. But then, let's talk about the South China Sea anyways. The only response that they put on our second contention is that this one guy says that like we can sign UNCLOS and we still be fine. But the problem with this argument is that this guy also assumes that we have reservations. The topic is without reservations, and that's why we're opening up to the lawsuits. And my partner tells you in rebuttal that China was sued for their naval presence. There's no exception here. Go to their case. This gives us access to two different terms. First, the glacier term. Here's the way that you do here. They just say we give like this credibility argument. Remember, no one couldn't tell you in the first crossfire how much credibility, 1, 2, 3 points of credibility, and what that does. Rather, you prefer the tangible military presence, and that's far more reassuring for our allies. But secondly, and more importantly, they say the Haas evidence is really bad because like China's taking some islands in 2016. But realize we post-date this evidence. For the first time ever, Haas explains we're in a golden age. There is stability, and right now, China's negotiating through the code of conduct to reach solutions in the South China Sea. It's reason why this is working in the status quo, and outweighs the probability on this argument as well. Because the status quo is good, and the uniqueness controls the direction of the link. You'd be voting for peace, vote for the golden age, don't end it.
So, what did Obama do with Yale?
He said you can't do
Okay, put a ban, right? And that Trump was like, come on.
So even if you're allowed to drill, okay, so why is this, can you tell me, so hold on. So Canada's a part of UNCLOS right now, right? So why are they not drilling in the Arctic?
I assume they have reservations on it.
No. Reason is because Trudeau, hold on,
Isn't UNCLOS enforceable as the customary law of the United States?
Okay, look, this is our only point, right? There's two fields of law. There's the federal law, which governs what we can do in America, and there's the international law, which governs what we can do outside of our traditional limits. What we're saying is that even if you get certainty over the international regulations, insofar as the expansion of short federal regulations, it won't happen.
So your argument is contingent on a different administration coming up and then passing another oil bill.
No. That is not our argument. Our argument is that oil companies are, like, their perception is they don't want to spend billions of dollars on an investment that can be taken away within the next 7 years.
So because, yeah.
That's just the argument. The argument is that the opportunity costs and the investors are too high to justify.
I understand the argument, right? But what we're also saying is that if they don't have legal certainty, the international community can also backlash against them, and that's far more costly. It's probably far more costly.
Hold on.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say something. Okay, if the international community backlashes against them, they're probably going to sanction them. It's all going to be really bad for these oil companies. That's why, without affirming, there's no drilling in the offshore areas. It's very clear.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's our argument. You wouldn't tell us about world
Why is China expanding in the South China Sea?
They want total control, they want control of the waterways, economically, militarily.
Great.
They want to call on the allies that were the U.S.'s.
Great, so they want like the economic control of the region, right?
Well, economic also feeds into military and the other aspects.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Like that's the reason why they said they were expanding. They wanted for their resources so they could be a hegemon, right? What is the only way that we can get them? Like they want to do this regardless, right?
So
how is negotiating them multilaterally going to stop them from pursuing their geopolitical interests?
So what we say is it does not matter how much China wants to expand insofar as they can't expand. Because what our argument is that when there's a strong military coalition, they basically cannot expand.
Great.
The example that I gave is, the example that I gave was in the Cold War. Russia really would have liked to expand into NATO potato states, but they just couldn't because of the strong
So it's the military,
line.
right? It's not multilateralism, it's the military coalition.
Yeah.
Here's where our paths diverge. The U.S. has military action right now. We fly our ships beyond. But the strong evidence indicates we've never responded to is that we look like a lone wolf.
Why?
Since we're not a party to international law, we look like we're actually
Why would you like a lone wolf? We're literally supporting our allies.
No. Because the problem is.
Can I just? Yeah, sure. The same reason you guys say that like phone ops and our military presence is really good at your second war is why we say it's good, right? Because we're supporting our allies and shows our tangible presence. But can I just draw the distinction here? Sure. The distinction is you want to support our military through credibility. I want to support our military through having our military there. It's very kind
That's fair, but our argument is that the actions that we are looking at the perception of our allies, and what our allies are saying, that's why they're flipping, that's the evidence we read, is because they think the military action we're taking is only for ourselves.
So if we're multi-focused
Is everyone ready? Starting on the You prefer impacts to the South China Sea for two reasons. The first one is on clarity because we know what China is going to do. There's a very clear story being told here on the probe. Not a clear story about how much drilling goes Navy is armed. But the second thing is on probability. We know that China is being a malicious actor right now, and we know that the best way to address that is with a coalition. They dropped the idea that coalitions are the most effective. We don't know if oil companies will go in. We don't know that will produce green tech. Our arguments are more probable on face. Let's go to our case. This is how you affirm. But the evidence in our case, and let's hear explain, is that because the U.S. lacks credibility, our allies do not trust us, and they're siding with China as their only option out. This is really important because it means that even though we have military pressure, it still looks disingenuous to our allies. That's what the short analysis indicates that they never respond to. However, by affirming, we flip the narrative. We show we are in support of international law and we can band our allies together. That's what the Erickson analysis tells us. That's really important because it allows us to form coalitions that can resist China. One by one, China wins every single day. But as a coalition, China never wins. They drop John Stu says that empirically, military coalitions reduce the average of conflict 23%, and a real-life example of NATO being invulnerable against Russia, even despite the fact that they are more aggressive. But their only response to this again is that military does work, and we reduce our military. I will get to this when I address their case. Remember the fact the military just does not decrease, but even if it does decrease slightly in its capacity, the fact that we are working multilaterally instead of unilaterally presents a much stronger force against China. China will not attack if that happens. Then, this brings me to my impact scenario. In the absence of this, China will have full control to dominate the South China Sea, and we showed empirically that in 1979, when China felt that Vietnam was been acting out, when they had control, that's what allowed them to attack Vietnam and kill 50,000 people. On their case, first, on this idea of the Arctic. We say the federal government also controls legal certainty. Oil companies would not risk $10 billion on the fact that there would be a new democratic president. They also drop our analysis that spills are huge reputational damages, that's terminal defense. It takes out the idea oil companies will never even go in. They also drop my response and rebuttal, which is that we're already kind of screwed because the cost of $60 billion happens in a pro-recon world. Their projection takes that out. And finally, on this idea of the Navy, right? They talk about tribunals. We say tribunals can be exempted. The China example is not relevant. That's Article 98. And finally, is the more evidence that says that every single administration supports this because they have reviewed every part of UNCLOS. It just simply does not make sense why they would support the law of the sea if it harmed U.S. sovereignty. It makes our Navy stronger and not weaker. That's why we do.
So, same order as answer summary. First. Good. Okay. So, you can cleanly vote for us off of the environment first. Remember, it's the continental shelf, not the Arctic where we're going. It's profitable, they can go there. They keep bringing up how the administrations can pass all these different bans. That concedes our link about legal certainty. We literally increase legal certainty. We increase the probability that they're going to the Arctic. The only other thing that they have is that they'll get domestic backlash because they're oil companies. They are oil companies. Their job is to drill oil. They are profit motivated. They aren't motivated by these domestic institutions that can probably get backlash against them. But here's why this is important. It links us into our linear climate change impact. We don't have to win green tech investment. We just have to win that you increase the amount of drilling. First, always on scope. Climate change affects everybody. They're only talking about one conflict in the South China Sea. When the probability, secondly on probability, the probability of conflict happening because of economic interdependence and mutual destruction is incredibly low. You know that when you drill, you emit, and that's really bad for our environment. But then finally, on time frame, because this is a long-term implication. For every 1 degree increase in Celsius, you decrease crop yields by 15%. That's 2.5 billion people in the developing world. But if that's not enough for you to vote for us, you can still vote for us off of our second contention. They extend two responses. First, they say that military officials explain that there's no provision. Andrew answers this in summary, and I did it as rebuttal. They're assuming that we can have reservations on the treaty. It doesn't respond to the underlying logic of our arguments. Our military will be coerced. But secondly, and more importantly, it doesn't matter if our military is exempt. That's a probability argument. All these other navies like China's have been sued in the past, so we have historical precedent on our side. But on top of that, China's conflicting interpretations and the unique evidence of the anti-American voting bloc is what wins us this argument. Because the anti-American voting bloc can pass future restrictions on our military that aren't existing right now. Here's why this is important. It links into their case. Our military coalition is what's working right now. Freedom of navigation operations is not a unilateral action. We are sending a tangible message to our allies when we have our defensive military operations protecting them right now. That outweighs on probability because it's happening in the status quo. They're the only people who risks losing this. It's a military coalition. But then secondly, and more importantly, if you reduce our military presence, that emboldens China in the first place because now they think that the United States is weak and continue to expand, doing it for economic reasons. The military is the only thing that proves that the cost of expansion outweighs the benefits for China, so we also win their case very clearly.